Hello and good morning. Welcome to Smart Ports, part of Smart Cities in Barcelona. We're here to present three different speakers from 12 o'clock now until 12:45. The first one is Daniel Olivier. He's the Director of Business Intelligence and Innovation of the Port of Montreal. His project is towards a smart port city interface, integrating AI harbor trucking management. Thank you. With all of you, Daniel Olivier.
Okay, thank you very much for being here. It's really a pleasure to be here, and I see it's a full house, so that's great. So I will be talking about how digital is actually forcing ports to rethink the relationship and the integration between cities and ports. Because this is a smart city conference, I thought I couldn't think of a better subject than harbor trucking. To actually, the story I wish to tell is how the Port of Montreal, what kind of efforts we're making to keep the peace between the city and the port when it comes to managing trucks. Because as you all know very well, trucks are major and significant generators of ports are major and significant generators of truck traffic. A port like Shanghai, any idea how many trucks a day a port like Shanghai can generate? Anyone? Sorry? 10 million, not that many in one day. Any other guess? 60,000 trucks in a day. So how do you manage that, right? So Montreal, we're certainly no Shanghai, but we still generate 2,500 trucks a day. So for a city of the size like Montreal, that's significant. So I'm here to present two projects that are leveraging artificial intelligence to better proactively manage these trucks so that these trucks actually don't spend time on city streets and add to the congestion. So what I have in store very quickly, for those of you who are not so familiar with Montreal, just a very quick overview. And then I would like to say a few words about why innovation is so important for us as a market differentiator. And then spend some time presenting these two AI-driven projects to increase truck fluidity, and a few concluding remarks. So without further ado, Port of Montreal, we're the second largest port in Canada. We're the fifth largest port for container market on the east coast of North America. And we're a very diversified port, fortunately enough. So we do liquid bulk, dry bulk, containers, of course, and we have a small yet very fast-growing cruise industry. So as you can see from the graph, we are experiencing very interesting and sustained growth in our container sector. So this is the story of Montreal in the container business for the last 50 years. And our unique position in the market allows us to service 7 of the 10 largest container lines. But what you'll notice is for the last 2 years, we've been growing at double-digit rates, which is a good problem, you'll say. Because of CETA and our capacity to tap into new emerging markets through transshipment, this growth has been fast and unpredicted. And unfortunately, it also led to more trucks, meaning more congestion. So unfortunately for the Port of Montreal, we've been attracting press attention in the last 2 years for the wrong reasons. So what are we doing about it? This slide just very quickly saying that there's a lot of money right now being invested in container ports all across the North American East Coast. Port of Montreal as a river port is unique. We compete against ocean ports that are up to 5 times our size and up to 15 times our financial capabilities. So we know we can't win that race. In just basically the race to add more infrastructure to relieve capacity. So what do we do? The answer is simple: innovation. Innovation to improve the customer experience and also make sure that there's a good, sustainable relationship between the port and the city and keep our port fluid at the same time. So ports obviously are in a dilemma. Before you add capacity, you absolutely want to make sure that you're leveraging and optimizing existing infrastructure. And that's where smart solutions come in. Okay? So how do you do that? You basically have to control demand, right? For the same infrastructure, you have to have some form of leverage over demand. And how do you do that is by changing behavior. So as a port authority, we're not a transactional player, but we still yield fairly an amount of influence over our supply chain partners. In the case of harbor trucking, you can influence truck drivers' behavior directly by such things like night gates. So a year ago, we implemented night gates. Believe it or not, until a year ago, our gates for trucks were only open 8 hours in a 24-hour day. So 16 hours, the infrastructure is sitting idle, which is ridiculous. Now I'm happy to say that only after a year, 20% of truckers are now using night gates, so that the actual truck flow and demand has flattened over time. Another strategy has been to launch the trucking portal. This is basically, it's a free app that's available to truck drivers and dispatchers on their mobile to provide them real-time information about congestion levels at the port by terminal. So they can consult what is the transaction time in real time and adjust their trips and their better plan and optimize their deliveries at the port. So if, for example, a truck driver has 5 containers to pick up at the port in one day, he sees that the congestion level is high, he can defer his transactions to later in the day or even do those transactions the following day. The other thing we want to do is notify truck drivers in advance, because inside the port there's a conflict between rail and truck passages. So it's really important whenever there's a train disruption to notify truck drivers in advance so that they can also adjust and plan ahead. But what I'm really here to present today is the predictive analytics. So truck drivers are telling us, it's great, you're giving me real-time information, but you know what? What I really want to know is what will be the congestion level Monday morning or this afternoon or tomorrow. So that's one approach. The other approach, obviously, terminal operators also played their part in changing behavior of truck drivers. They implement new technologies at the gate to fast track and accelerate the transaction process. Now we have pre-gate notification process, so the truck driver can actually do the transaction on his phone before he leaves the warehouse, even before he actually arrives at the port, so that the whole process is fast-tracked. And another project that I will be presenting using AI is container inspection process. So what I want to do for the remainder of the time I have is actually spend time on these 2 projects and how we're leveraging artificial intelligence to improve the whole truck driver experience. So this is the trucking portal I was talking about very quickly. Actually, one thing I need to say is at 1 o'clock, we'll actually be presenting a deep dive of this application right across at the booth. So for those who are interested in this kind of solution and smart technology, please join us at 1 o'clock just across here. So basically, truck driver will use the app and will see in real time what is the congestion level and how many minutes he can expect to complete a transaction. So the green you see, there's a color code. The psychological threshold for a truck driver in Montreal is 60 minutes. They expect their transactions to be complete in 60 minutes. Either drop off a container, pick up a container, should be within 60 minutes. If it's above that, it's either yellow or red. So consult this. We have visuals to support also. If there's a queue, he can see where the bottleneck actually is. Truck driver can also set alerts, so if I'm going to the port only on Monday mornings and I want to be alerted when I judge that the wait time is unacceptably high, so he receive an SMS or email. The other thing as well is we have greenhouse gas reduction emission goals also attached to this fluidity measure. So there's an algorithm that will actually calculate from transaction times how much greenhouse gas in real time is being emitted from truck activity at the port. So like I said, there's land use conflict between truck and rail. So the port is where all four modes collide, and it can be a little chaotic. So this little passage here, this is the actual, what you see is the truck gate. So in a typical day, about 2,000 trucks go through here. That's 200 trucks per hour that have to cross this little passage to get inside the port, and sometimes rail interferes. Right? So what we want to do is actually notify truck drivers that actually there will be a train in the next 2 hours. If you expect to be at the port in 2 hours, maybe you want to stop for a donut or coffee, chill out, and let the train go by. But this is really what I'm here to present today in Barcelona. This is unique and it's unprecedented. So like I said, truck drivers really enjoy the real-time information, but what they really want is to know ahead and forecast how it's going to be in a few hours or the next day. So we have partnered with a local artificial intelligence startup based in Montreal to develop an algorithm that will actually use machine learning and then predict congestion levels ahead of time. So the truck driver experience will now look like this. We'll know what the real-time processing time is, but we'll also know in 30-minute increments what he can expect in the next 2 hours, or even by clicking the little plus sign here, we'll also know what the expected congestion levels will be in the next 24 hours. All right? So things get quite nasty, especially early in the morning, rush hour, Monday mornings. Customers want their box that came in by ship on the Friday. They're rushing the trucks to get the boxes and pick up the boxes. So the truck drivers will want to know how it's going to be the following day. So that's really, and you're probably thinking, yeah, this guy is telling me he wants to change behavior. How do we measure that? Obviously, our turn times have improved since we implemented the portal, and we expect them to further improve once the predictive capabilities are in place. If we're good, Santa Claus will probably put this into production for us right about Christmas time. So this is basically a teaser that I presented today. It's not yet in production, but it should be in a few weeks. So we also use Google Analytics to track behavior and take-up rate of the application. So we know how many users are online, how long they're using the application, is it mobile, is it desktop, and what time of day they're actually using the portal. The other project that I wish to talk about is actually a partnership with a local Montreal startup called CanScan. Actually, there's a representative that's with us today. If you are interested in talking to them, they're at the booth for the whole day. So as we speak today, every container that comes in by truck at the Port of Montreal is verified and checked by human beings for integrity, physical integrity I'm talking about. So basically, every container that comes in has to be verified by a person, and then what the solution proposes is to use an image recognition algorithm that will use video feeds and then detect the container information, identity, will also detect whether there's a seal. Containers have to be sealed for integrity and cargo security. So is there a seal? Is the seal broken? Is it intact? And what's the status of the seal? It will also look for rust and damage for cargo insurance and liability. And finally, it will also be able to detect structural damage to the container. So most of you are thinking, hey, what's really innovative in that? Image recognition exists for many years, but it's one thing to detect a seal, which is about this big. It's another thing to have an algorithm detect if the seal is broken or not. Add to that, Montreal receiving 200 centimeters of snow every year. You've got weather conditions that are certainly not helping. So the expertise that CanScan are developing in Montreal really turns out to be unique in the world. And we expect this to actually fast-track and accelerate the truck transaction times at the Port of Montreal. So I'm running out of time. Thankfully, this is my last slide. So takeaways. Basically, harbor trucking is a major irritant for cities. And the Port of Montreal is actually taking very proactive and extremely innovative measures. Once this goes online at around Christmas time, we'll be the only port in the world to actually do that. So it's quite a project. It's really about fluidity, but it's also about reducing a carbon footprint as well, because a fluid port is also a greener port. So it's also about customer experience. That's really what smart solutions are about. We think that predictive capabilities will greatly enhance demand control and should flatten even further the demand over the day. And finally, it's an integrated vision. We started with trucking information, we're adding rail, and eventually we want to add also vessel information, so to have a full and complete experience to the truck community. So with that, I'm running out of time, and I thank you sincerely for your attention. I'll be around all day. If you have questions, please look for the guy in the light blue jacket. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Our next project that we're presenting is Port Forward, step by step towards a smart connected port. This project is a solution that helps ports grow towards a smart connected port and can also support other ports in digital development. Tia de Vries is presenting it, who's the Director of Marketing and New Business, and in the digital business solutions for the Port of Rotterdam. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Can everybody hear me loud or too loud? Just let me know. Or yes, fine? Okay, then I will continue. I will take you on our journey, how we strive to become the smartest port. A smart port, and as Port of Rotterdam, we are one of the leading ports, so we really want to make big steps in that. And I'm not focusing on one solution. I take you along our journey in our vision and our strategy and the toolboxes we have. And if you want to know more about it later, we can discuss it at the booth. What we see, and some who might have seen my other presentations might recognize this picture. What we see, there's a lot to gain. There's about 50 to 115 billion euros to be gained in the logistics chain if you make sure that all the waste has diminished. So if every party is very well connected to each other, if all data are shared, then we can save a lot of money and emissions. Because nowadays there are still about 30% of delays of ships. And that's strange if you see what all kind of technology is available. And also, if you want to ship a container from overseas into the inland, it takes about 28 parties and 100 interactions just to get a container from A to B. If you go to take the plane to a place, the travel industry looks the same. We are the cargo going on the plane. That's much more easy. So why can't that be in the marine industry? So it will happen, this change, and how fast it will go. To my opinion, it would be great if we go faster, but we have to start. And if we don't do it ourselves as port authorities, others will do, new tech players. So imagine a port, because if you want to change your port, you need to have a vision. And for us, a dream port is a port where are no delays, where ships are no longer waiting, where there are no trucks waiting, just like Daniel presented in his solution. Because it's so important to have a fluid port, to let every operation go as smooth as possible. But what do you have? What is the step you have to take to make that? We do a lot of testing, so we have container 42. That's a container. We put all kind of sensors on it with all kind of tech players that's traveling around the world, so that we can learn from all the information that is collected by this container 42. But our ultimate dream is that we really can make sure that the emissions will go down. Otherwise, we cannot grow as a port. In Rotterdam, we really have problems. We want to grow, but we have to take care of the city as well. And if we grow and we don't make it more sustainable, then it's fixed CO2. We cannot allow more CO2. We should bring that back. And how are we doing that? Is, for instance, with the digital twin. We are developing a digital twin that's an exact copy of the port, about the infra, about ship movements, about everything on our assets, so we can collect all kind of data and see where are the improvements. How can we, based on the information, historical and also predictive, if you make it based on deep learning and machine learning, then we can see where are the improvements possible. And for a good example is, for instance, our dredging tool based on data in the port. We dredge a lot in Port of Rotterdam, but we dredge also in corners where the ships are not turning, and we know now where they exactly are making the turns and how deep the ships are sailing. And we know now, with the digital twin, we can see what the current is. We can see how deep the water is. So we can advise, in certain circumstances, how much containers you can take on your ship. So you can maximize your cargo on the ship. So that saves money and also extra transport. So this is what we are now developing. It's an IoT platform with IBM, Cisco, and many other parties. And we are learning already. And I'm excited about what that's really going to bring us for the next few years. Because the data alone is not enough. You have to turn them into insights, and you need tools for that to see what can we learn and how can we improve. So the way how we work in Port of Rotterdam is think big, but we act very small. So we are always searching for the coalition of the willing. So we are looking for parties who see the same problems and say, we want to solve that together. We need each other because a port is an ecosystem. As a port authority, we can do our business as efficient as possible, but a port is an ecosystem with all the terminals, all the operators, all the service providers in a port. So we are looking for a coalition of the willing, and then we start to develop. Or we work together with startups, or we develop it by ourselves. And we do that step by step. So we learn, we fail, and we throw it away, and we learn again, and scale up what is working. And then we make adoption in the port. And eventually, if it's adopted in the Port of Rotterdam, some of our customers, like Maersk and Shell, they want even some tools also in other ports because they see what it can save them in time, money, and CO2. So that's what we also do. We have some solutions which are proven in Rotterdam and which we offer to other ports to see if we can work on a smart, connected world. So maybe, and that's something what I learned from Montreal just about the smart trucking solution, and maybe we can use that in our port. How did we start? First, we digitized our own process. That's the most easy way. Start with yourself and then improve the world. The next step was making our port community, our ecosystem, let them work as smart as possible. The next step was more into the hinterland. We have a lot of intermodal connectivities towards Germany and other countries, so we have to run our trucks are the most easy way, but rail operations are very difficult in Rotterdam. Many parties, and they all have to share their plannings data to optimize the chain. The same for the barge. So we are developing on that part right now. And ultimately, if you have everything in place in your port and connected to your hinterland, then you're ready to connect to the world and see what you can do between ports, because there's a lot of savings there as well. And only then we can really make the world more sustainable and save those 150 billion euros, if it's really that amount of money. So we focus on two areas. One is the real port operations with our community, and the other solutions are focused on shippers and forwarders. They have a different process, so we are only as a port a knot, so one part is focused on the knot, that's the left part, and the other one is for the shippers and forwarders to go as smooth as possible through a port. I will zoom in to that. Like Pronto, I presented that yesterday. That's a solution to optimize your port call. So all parties like terminals, agents, shipping companies, and all other parties that are needed around the port call, they use Pronto to share their plannings data so everybody can optimize their planning. And for Shell, for instance, it saves them 20% waiting time in the port. So that's quite a lot. And between ports, they can, it managed to organize the just-in-time sailing. So, and then it doesn't only save money, but also a lot of CO2 and NOx reductions. And Pronto is one of the solutions we are now testing in other ports to see can we create the same impact as in Rotterdam. Port Insider is based on our port community system port base. We are making that ready for in the cloud, also for other ports. So then we use what we learned in Rotterdam and we bring that to the world. Port Master, that's based on our port management system in how you can run as a harbor master. You port in the most safe and efficient way, so you can monitor everything that's going on in your port and you can administer it. So that, it's very important in managing the safety in your port. The digital twin I just spoke about. And this is how it works. It's a video if you combine all kind of solutions and see, then you get an idea of how the applications work and how we make the process easier.
Seaports are indispensable links for nearly all the world's cargo flows. Digitalization is rapidly transforming the logistics chain and the way ports are run across the globe. Port Forward gives an extra impulse to this development and the opportunities it provides. We offer a portfolio of digital solutions for optimal collaboration within the entire port community. Here is how it works. We offer duty officers a single window for scheduling, monitoring, and administration that helps increase port performance. Dashboards show detailed information of all vessels in the port, as well as those that are scheduled to arrive. We offer the port community a convenient tool to register incoming vessels. This includes important information about cargo, ISPS code, draft, and required utilities. The duty officer can add operational details and, if needed, adjust a vessel's ETA, its required number of tugs, or its berth planning. All this is done while the vessel is still on its way to the port. Machine learning algorithms, smart warnings, and notifications help make timely adjustments to the vessel's planning. In preparation of the vessel's arrival, the duty officer orders the required nautical services. The agent in turn receives confirmation all services have been ordered. And of course, the captain is also notified of the vessel's schedule. The software continuously shares status updates so all parties involved can run their operations smoothly and efficiently based on the latest, most accurate information available. Frequent updates on the vessel's ETA help optimize sailing speed for just-in-time arrival. Bunkering and other service providers also get updates that help them plan and deliver their services much more accurately and reliably as well. When operations in the port are nearing completion, the agent reports the vessel's estimated time of departure, which enables the port officer to calculate port dues for the services and utilities the vessel received, such as electricity, water, and waste disposal, swiftly and accurately. Our smart solutions are proven in Rotterdam. They are cloud-based and delivered as a service, fully configurable for small, medium, and large-sized ports. And of course, they are designed for seamless integration into existing workflows and applications. Move forward, port forward. Would you like to know more or request a demo? Visit our website, portofrotterdam.com/port forward.
Yeah, so this is it in real, how it works. And this is then from the port suite and the supply chain. I go deeper into the next slide. And the most important thing, the change we are facing, is that we don't want to control and check what can be automated, what can be digitalized. And you want to run your process on the exceptions. And that's what we are focusing on, so you get the notifications and that you don't have to check anymore the normal process that are running. The other solutions we have is on the supply chain side. This morning I presented Navigate, that's a route planning system, because we found out that everybody was searching for all the routes towards Port of Rotterdam and onward, and it wasn't in place. So that's the step we took. We are developing some other tools like Ship Tracker, it's a vessel ETA, in our lab, because we still do have a lot of, in the lab we are predicting the vessels, so they can predict 10 days ahead. And recently we launched Box Insider, and it's a track and trace tool for container cargo, because that is still not available, so especially from ports into the hinterland. And that's one we notice a lot of questions from shippers who really love to join and see how that works, because there's so much to gain in that way. This is how the portfolio looks like. So for the ports who want to discuss this with me or are curious, feel free to visit me. I'm in the red shirts, so are easy to find at the booth. This is the whole portfolio. We have some tools running in Rotterdam, and we are not just piloting like On Track and Streamline. That's really for Rotterdam, and we don't scale it up yet. So we first check it in Rotterdam, and then we see if we can scale it up. But the other solutions are available for the international market. So please feel free to join. These are the parties we are working on to see if we can improve our port world and also in other ports. So we're working with them together. And then I close because the time is over. Yeah. This is what I want to say. We believe in a smart port, being a smart port, but especially in a smart connected world. So I really would like to invite other ports to join forces and see that we don't only talk about it, but that we take action and make sure that we change this port world, because we can do it. So let's make it happen, I would say. So I invite you and hope to speak to you later this afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great. Wonderful. Our last speaker today is Eric Caries. He is the Director of Cargo Marketing of the Port of LA. The project is called Environmental Technology to reduce port-related air pollution and related health risks. This project includes Clean Truck Program and other components such as the world's first hybrid tugboat.
Ah.
Thank you.
Good. Yeah, thank you. Well, it's very nice being here in Barcelona. It's only my second time in Barcelona. It's very nice. I didn't know this part of the town existed. And very nice to see all the interaction that is taking place here in Barcelona. So yeah, a quick talk on what we're doing at the Port of Los Angeles from an environmental point of view, specifically environmental technology. We're doing stuff on the efficiency side as well, and I can touch on that in a minute. But if you're not familiar where the Port of Los Angeles is, we are, of course, in Southern California, the West Coast. There are two port complexes in Southern California. One is the Port of Long Beach, and one is the Port of Los Angeles. We are actually competing port authorities, but we collaborate very closely when it comes to issues of security, environmental programs, and some infrastructure type projects. We handle 17.5 million TEUs. We're actually the only gateway complex in the top 10, the only non-Asia gateway in the top 10 in the world. We handle more or less 30-35% of the total US containerized import trade. And so the impact of port operations to the surrounding community is significant. The state of California also treats diesel emissions as an air toxic, and so whenever we do projects, we have to look at reducing health risk from port operations. So as I mentioned, We are also, from a topography point of view, we are also surrounded by mountains. So that means any type of emissions that are produced, they generally speaking stay within the region, which is most unfortunate. Back in the 1500s, actually, when a Portuguese explorer discovered the San Pedro Bay, he actually referred to it then in the 1500s already as Bahia de los Fumos, because you have a lot of forest fires, and the smoke from forest fires still stuck around. So anyway, so we're still there. From an economic point of view, the important numbers are 1 in 9 jobs for Southern California are related to port activity, 2.8 million jobs nationwide. We touch every one of the 435 congressional districts, so what goes on at the Port of LA has really is of national significance. When I talk about port emissions today, we also look at where port emissions can go in the future. So we've done a rather detailed economic analysis, even looking at what Danielle was showing earlier, port development projects along the US East Coast and in the US Gulf. We still believe that through the San Pedro Bay Port Complex, our volumes will double, if not triple. So we might hit the 35-40 million TEU volumes by the year 2040, and we are obviously preparing to deal with these anticipated growth of volume. So between the two ports, as I said, we work collaboratively on security and environmental programs. So between the two ports, LA and Long Beach, we established in 2006 what we refer to as the Clean Air Action Plan. And the Clean Air Action Plan is aimed at reducing emissions from 5 major sources, which are listed here. Harbor craft, on-road trucks, the regular trucks that are on the road, terminal equipment, and of course ocean-going vessels. And on the subject of ocean-going vessels, at the Port of Los Angeles, we were the very first port to actually connect ships to shore power, or in Europe you refer to it as onshore power, sometimes in the US cold ironing. The official title, actually in the international standard, which we started developing in 2006, is actually high voltage shore connection systems. That's what it is referred to. So this was the first ship to ever connect to shore power. What you will see on the photo is that there is a barge on the backside of it with a transformer on it. That was the first prototype, if you will, as a result of what was designed, or the result of basically the international standard. Ships, that doesn't exist anymore. Ships basically receive the 6,600 volts that is provided from the shore, and they do the transformation on board the vessel. We purposely actually put that type of equipment on a flat rack container. You can see that because we wanted the shipping industry to realize that if you can put a transformer, cable management system on a flat rack, you can also put it in a container. And so if you wanted to minimize the impact from an investment point of view on the shipping line side, you can put it in a container whenever the vessel is deployed in a different trade route, at least recover part of that investment and place it on another vessel. So we're very proud of this project. We spent $5 million to outfit 17 of then China Shipping's vessels. We also have what we refer to a power cost neutrality component, because we were the first folks starting this program, so we wanted to make sure that for the shipping line that was using shore power, that the power that they paid for from the shore would be the same as the self-generated power. So we actually have a power cost neutrality component associated with this. The shore power, plus Danielle spoke about the number of trucks that we had, the daily truck trips in Shanghai. Well, you may be surprised, the daily truck trips in Los Angeles and Long Beach related to port activity are exactly the same. We have 60,000 daily truck moves taking place in Los Angeles and Long Beach. And one of our programs as well, going back to 2008, as part of the Clean Air Action Plan, was to roll out a clean trucks program. Basically, by way of our tariff, we banned trucks that were in 2008, we banned trucks that were from age 1988. They couldn't enter the port anymore. And then later on, in 2012, we actually banned the trucks that were the year model, only trucks that were year model 2007 and newer could enter marine terminals. We have 12 container terminals in the San Pedro Bay, Los Angeles and Long Beach. We didn't just tell folks, you know, you can't come in anymore. We actually had a mechanism where there were fees paid. Those fees generated revenues to then actually help trucking companies to buy the newer trucks that needed to be used to service the port area. So between the Clean Trucks program, shore power, which in the meantime is a state requirement because we made the technology feasible in 2004, the state adopted a shore power rule in 2014 requiring container ships, cruise vessels, and reefer vessels to connect to shore power. So between those two main projects, we've seen, and some terminal equipment improvements as well, we've seen some massive increases in reducing air pollution, while container volume actually during the same period of time grew by 26%. So the Clean Air Action Plan has seen a couple of updates, and we are now in the third update of the Clean Air Action Plan. We are still focusing on the 5 major source categories, but you can also tell that the last bullet there is talking about efficiency, efficiency improvement, and certainly on the Los Angeles side, much like many ports around the globe, major ports and smaller ports as well, we are very focused on digitizing the supply chain. So we've invested $16 million so far on a project called the Port Optimizer that provides visibility to the supply chain so you can improve your planning and processing and movement of cargo to the terminal facilities. That is a project that currently we're only doing by ourselves. Los Angeles, Long Beach, we hope will come online very soon on the efficiency side, the Port Optimizer project. You can look it up online. The update was an extensive outreach, 2 years of work reaching out to all the various supply chain stakeholders, including the agencies. We have the California Resources Board, we have the South Coast Air Quality Management District that participated with us in developing the new Clean Air Action Plan. One of the major developments out of the new Clean Air Action Plan is that we will require that all trucks that serve the port area will be zero emissions by 2035. All terminal equipment needs to be zero emissions by 2030. That is a very, very high goal, but we're well on a path to achieve that, we feel. For marine terminal operators, some of the concerns that they have sometimes is, you know, life cycle of equipment and how to make that match life cycle versus the targets that we've put up, 2030 and 2035. So, we also help the industry, right? So we set targets to reduce emissions, but we also help the industry by making funds available. The Clean Trucks Program Fund was one of them. As I mentioned, we spent $5 million on China shipping on outfitting vessels. We also have, to demonstrate new technologies, we also have between the two ports the Technology Advancement Program. We've had 40 projects so far that the Technology Advancement Program funded. It's $1.5 million from our side and the same from Long Beach. The one that you saw, the one that's shown actually is what we call an RTG, rubber-tired gantry crane, that traditionally is a diesel electric piece of equipment. We've basically turned that into a hybrid RTG, reducing the diesel engine from 600 horsepower to 105 horsepower. It's significantly reducing the environmental impacts from that piece of equipment. For a marine terminal, it almost makes no sense for them anymore to buy a regular rubber-tired gantry crane because the cost differential is minimal and they actually benefit from the fuel savings going with a hybrid type of equipment. We have 27 running around. Very recently, October 2nd, Taylor, which is one of the major top-pick heavy-duty terminal equipment developers, introduced with a bit of fanfare, I will say, because we're very proud of it, a zero emissions topic, which is used for your traditional delivery of containers to trucks. Many of these pieces of equipment are around. The nice thing, even in a technology advancement environment where we're looking to demonstrate things, back in the day, I will say, we were working often with small startup type of companies, and that works, but it's harder to actually really fully implement them because they're not really capitalized to the extent that, for instance, companies like Taylor and companies like Toyota and Shell have. So this is another one of the projects. This is actually a California Air Resources Board funded project. It's $41 million to have 10 hydrogen fuel cell trucks built by Toyota. It's a joint venture. Toyota, Kenworth, the truck manufacturer. The fuel cell technology comes from Toyota and Shell. So this involves also the building of fueling stations, hydrogen fuel stations as well, and a couple of them nearby. This will get us to a zero emissions environment. So for us, zero emissions is not necessarily always going the electrical route. You can get to zero emissions environment as well, going to a hydrogen fuel cell technology, and there's a lot more attention more recently on that technology. So we have today, we are managing around $80 million of grant funding in total for a variety of projects. We have 16, between LA and Long Beach, we have 16 zero emissions and near zero emissions, which type of projects. Near zero emissions can be LNG fuel equipment. I'll just touch on a couple of them. We have a Tier 4 tugboat retrofit, which is, it almost sounds like the movie Back to the Future, like it's a flux capacitor, but no, it's basically, they have an extensive catalytic converter system on it. It's about $1 million project. We are funding it for about $500,000. We are also working with a Canadian company, actually out of Montreal, Efenco, that have developed a truck idling type technology, but we're using this for yard equipment, terminal equipment. That is a project that we are funding. It's $360,000 total. We're funding it by $180,000, fairly small. We have, for us on the West Coast, the first LNG-powered vessel that will come online. They're brand new ships built by Pasha Hawaii. They are $430 million in purchase price. We are paying for the demonstration testing of the emissions on the Pasha Hawaii vessels. And then the hybrid tugboat for Harley Marine is a conversion to a diesel-electric type of environment. That's a $21 million project, and we're helping with the cost to design this new equipment. So all in all, this is a quick rundown. I invite you to go to the website, Clean Air Action Plan. You can see all the details of the Clean Air Action Plan and all the projects that we are working on. I will say that since 2005, as a port authority, we have spent close to $400 million on environmental programs. So programs are not inexpensive, but they are necessary. And we have been in a very good market position actually to also drive these types of what some people may consider aggressive. We like to think that they're progressive programs. So I thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you. And we'll continue our program now onto our booth of Smart Ports right behind us. So please join us there. Thank you, and we hope you enjoyed it.
Okay.
Goodbye.